Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today, this is a specially called meeting of the Hood County Elections Commission. Today is July the 28th, 2021. It's 2 p.m. We're here at the Hood County Justice Center in the Century Jury Room at 1200 West Pearl Street in Granbury, Texas. Today, since we're dealing with the administration or discipline regarding a public employee that pursuant to Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code and then pursuant to Section 31.033D of the Texas Election Code, we're going to adjourn into a executive session for a few minutes to discuss these allegations first. And because there are so many of you that I think want to speak on this, meeting is held so rarely that what we're going to do is that there are 5 different items on the agenda. You do not have to specify which item you want to speak on. You will have 3 minutes, and I guess we're going to have the clock will be running on here. Drew, you're going to have the clock running? On here, you will have 3 minutes. You will see the time to state your position or give your opinion, and then your time will be up, and then the next person will be that. So we're going to try to do this. There's a number of people here. So at this time, I'm going to move that we go into executive session and discuss these allegations and then come out and convene into the public agenda. Do I have a second to that? You second it? All in favor say aye. Aye. That's it. So we're going to adjourn for just a few minutes. Please be patient. If you want to speak, the sheriff has public participation forms, and we'll be out in just a minute. Mr. Mills, would you please join us? Mr. Mills is our county attorney, and he's going to go back with us to discuss the items on this agenda. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in from an executive session. The time is now 2:50 p.m. And before we get started in here where the citizens who have filled out a public participation will get their 3 minutes to come up here and speak about the elections administrators, I want to read the letters of 3 people who were actually involved in elections and really had some skin in the game. The first one is to Michelle Carew from Mayor Jim Jarrett. It's dated July the 28th, 2021. Dear Michelle, the city of Granbury wants to thank you for your amazing efforts over these past couple of months that have presented all of us at the city of Granbury with a unique and unpredictable set of challenges. On a condensed timeline, the Granbury City Council ordered 2 special elections to fill unexpired terms of office on the city council. Without hesitation, you immediately offered your expertise and support to guide us and get us in contact with appropriate representatives. You then began working tirelessly to successfully hold the election for us in a very timely and seamlessly manner. The special election led to a runoff election with an even more condensed timeline. Once again, you committed and delivered successfully, accomplishing what we assume not many election administrators would have been able and willing to do. The city of Granbury would not have been able to successfully hold the special election and runoff without your experience, knowledge, and generosity guiding us along the way. Your work is commendable, and we thank you for taking on the task. We now look forward to working with you in November for the uniform election day. Thank you for all you do to serve the public. Cordially, Mayor Jim Jarrett. This next letter is to Michelle Carew from the City of Crescent, Mayor Tina Petit Conway. Dear Michelle, On behalf of the city of Crescent, we wanted to extend a big thank you for all you and your team did in support of our recent election. Your attention to detail in helping us is greatly appreciated. Best regards, Tina. The next one, Michelle Carew from Jerry Campbell, Board President. Dear Michelle, on behalf of the Board of Trustees at Bluffdale Independent School District, I was asked to express my gratitude for your explanation and common sense approach to our questions over the past few months. We appreciate the fact that you took my call each time, did not make any instant decisions, and researched our contract, which you inherited. Your explanation about the impact COVID had during the November voting period was an item that had not crossed our minds. Your final decision to use CARES Act funds to reduce the entity's invoices seems fair during these very unusual times. Lastly, the forward-thinking information dealing with the new voting system you provided will enable us to prepare a proper budget when that time comes later this year. The estimate you offered is an added bonus. Thank you for treating us like a major player when we know we are probably the smallest customer on your election coverage. Warmest regards, Jerry Campbell. Now, since I've used that for my time, each member of this commission will be allowed to give their explanation regarding Michelle Carew.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
Today's agenda items are not under the Commission's authority per Texas Election Code 31.033. Amendment HB 1678, powers of the Election Commission extend no further than appointment, acceptance of resignation, or recommendation for termination of an election administrator. Again, this commission has no authority to discuss or debate any items listed on today's agenda. Therefore, to comply with Texas election law, I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Mr. Mills, I see that you are in the back there. You are the county attorney. Everybody here is breathlessly waiting your legal advice regarding the motion that Ms. Adrian Martin has just made.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so she brought this up last night, and I hadn't really seen it yet. There was this House bill in 2011 that she referenced, and it's one of the weird things that I've seen, and I haven't had a ton of time to look at it, but it has this Section 1, and the Section 1 is pretty much what she quoted from, and it says that their power extends no further than appointment, acceptance of resignation, or recommendation for termination. But that's sort of like a preamble. It's not codified in the election code or any law that you can cite to. It's just kind of, this is what we think, and then they made some other changes to the election code. So it's kind of like almost a pseudo law in a way, as best I can tell. I called the Secretary of State this morning, and they rely on this. This is what they gave me guidance to say, and this is in their handbooks and manuals and stuff. And so it is fairly consistent, though, with what the election code does authorize the commission to do, which is make the appointment or a suspension or termination. More or less, that's it. And then the Commissioner's Court has some authority over budgets and all that other stuff. Now, to the other point, I mean, the vice chair, which is the county clerk, does have the authority to call a meeting. So she called the meeting. That was legal. And I told her last week that these items should not be listed as action items. So I agree with that point. I mean, we can't take appropriate action on 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I do think, even though it's a little bit vague, that 7 would be a potential action item if you wanted to take a vote on suspension, termination, what have you. So I think that should be potentially fair game. Y'all have already done the executive session, so I don't know if that's answered it well enough or not.
Well, you said Section 7. I don't have a Roman numeral 7 on mine. I just have 2 through 6.
It's on, if you turn around behind you, it's 7. Section 7. You see, oh, that's weird. Well, anyway, It's on mine.
Not on
It's up
mine.
there.
On yours? Well, here's what,
It's posted on the county website.
well, so here's the deal. Can we legitimately vote on Adrian Martin's motion to declare this meeting illegal?
I mean, I guess if it had 3 votes, you could probably do that, but to me, I think she at least, Ms. Lang at least has the right to have number 7 taken up. I mean, I think that's a legitimate action item. If she wants to have a vote, I think she would at least have the right to do that. And I think the others can kind of be discussed under that heading, you know. In other words, somebody could say, I vote to suspend or terminate because I have a beef with this issue or that issue or whatever it may be. I don't think those should really be separate agenda and action items.
Well, let me bring up another point. I know that under the Open Meetings Act, that public participation by the citizen is allowed.
Right.
And I do not want to commit any illegality by not allowing the citizens here to talk. I don't agree with the meeting myself personally, but I'm not going to violate any law. When I took this office, I said I will never do anything illegal or unethical, and I intend to keep my word on that promise. So I'm asking you, what should we do at this particular point? Should we vote on Ms. Martin's motion, or shall we go ahead and allow the public to speak that have filled out a public participation form?
I would recommend that people be able to address the commission and then vote on 7 as a legit action item, if there is a vote to be made, and then adjourn. That would be my thought.
We wouldn't be able to discuss anything that the public is bringing up. We don't have the authority to discuss anything.
Well, I got Mr. Fisher here whispering in my ear that we need a second or need to vote on the motion. What I'm concerned about is the legality and illegality of proceeding without participation in here by the public. That's what I'm concerned about. We've got people out here that filled out public participation forms, and they have the right, according to the law as I read it, in an open meetings to express their opinion. And I understand that she's made a motion before we've gotten to Roman numeral 7, but how do we need to proceed from here? Do we need to table her motion until after we hear from the residents?
Well, if they're speaking on an agenda item, I think that Ms. Lang would have a right to at least have a vote on her agenda item. So,
Well, I thought that we had said that under public participation forms that the people were going to be allowed to speak to all of the agenda items seem to evolve around Michelle's duties as the election administrator,
Right.
and not single out any one thing particular so they can go ahead and just speak. So that's what I think is probably the most fair thing to do in light of the discussion that was in the executive session back
Right.
there just a few minutes ago. And then I guess according to what you're telling me, is that the way we're going to have to do it to conform to election laws is to have a vote on Mrs. Lang's agenda items as one.
yeah,
That was the vote to just,
I think it'd probably be wiser to just kind of skip past 2 through 6 as being separate standalone action items. I mean, those are all more or less under the heading of general complaints or something about, which could lead somebody to take action one way or the other on 7. I mean, ultimately, I think that's what this is all about. So, I mean, if somebody wants to speak about, hey, she's doing a great job or not doing a great job, or I have a problem with this or that, I mean, that would kind of be fair game just under the general, should we keep this person employed or not, right? That would kind of make sense.
Oh, yeah, we're going to let Michelle speak as well. I mean, if we're going to let the public speak, we're going to let Michelle speak. We'll let each member here on the board speak. I think we're going to have to do that by the election law. And I don't know, I wanted to read those letters because that's the 3 elections that I know that people have been involved in, and that's what they think of the elections administrator. But that's what I do not want to commit any illegality here today. That's my number one concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be on the safe side, she has the right to call the meeting. She put things on there. I don't really agree with the first several as standalone items, but I mean, I don't know that her item 7 should be torpedoed and we adjourn without having her the opportunity to make a potential motion or have.
Okay, well, let me just ask you this. Ms. Martin, having said all of this now, would you withdraw your motion so that the people can go ahead and speak, and Ms. Carew can speak, and then each one of you can speak, or y'all can speak first, and then we'll have the people speak, and then we'll have a vote?
I mean, I think this meeting is a witch hunt. I don't want to be any part of it, so no.
Okay, so I got a motion here, so now I don't know what to do. I have a motion, and,
Second to drop, right?
okay, it's, is there a second to Ms. Martin's motion?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting right now because there is no basis in law to have it. Is that,
Yes.
By law, we can only hire or fire her
or terminate?
or terminate. We have no right to do anything else by law.
Could y'all talk in the mics, please?
By law, we only have the right to hire or fire her. Yes, it is.
There is also an agenda item to discuss her personnel matter under Texas Code.
Not in an open forum where
No, to go to executive session, stated personnel matter, Texas Government Code 551.074, and we did that.
Right.
So we can make a motion on
but not
what
up
we,
here. We let them talk first.
I don't think, though, that it should be done. She has not broken any law.
that you know of.
Right, that we're going to discuss.
Can we call a vote on my motion?
Let me ask you this, Mr. Mills. If we call a vote on Ms. Martin's motion, we have a motion and a second without giving the public the right to say something, is that legal?
I would let the public speak and have the agenda item taken up. I understand Ms. Martin's point. This is, in her opinion, a witch hunt, and Ms. Carew's done no wrong, et cetera, but that would be, in my mind, a reason for her to vote against any motion made on 7, rather than an appropriate reason to dismiss before we even get to take up number 7. That's, you see what I'm saying?
Legally.
Well, I mean, legally, she's the vice chair. She called the legal meeting. She has the right to call a meeting. So she called the meeting. She put on a bunch of stuff. I don't really think the first 2 through 6 can be standalone action items, but even though 7 is a little vague, that's how I've seen things listed before without stepping on somebody's toes on the agenda. If somebody wants to take action on a personnel matter pursuant to the election code, I think she would have a right to put forth a motion to suspend or terminate. And then, obviously, you have the right to vote that down. That's my take.
Would it be okay if I made a motion to discuss items 2 through 6 and not take any action?
Well, we already have a motion on the
Well,
floor.
Yeah, that's just my take on the motion on the floor, you know. And then, to me, discussing 2 through 6 really fall under the heading of, do you want to terminate or suspend or not? So I would just jump to 7 and discuss what is a legit action item.
We can't take any action until we vote on this motion.
Yeah, I know. So I gave my 2 cents, and y'all can vote.
But I still think they should be able to speak.
Here's my concern, that anything that we do up here, if we do not let the citizens speak, do not let Ms. Carew speak, do not let everybody else speak, is going to be deemed illegal. That's my concern. And then all of this is for naught, and then we're going to all be back here again, and we're going to all be doing the same thing again.
Right.
And so,
You have a second. Why don't you vote?
Right, and that's the other thing. I mean, if you vote to terminate this meeting, then Ms. Lang can turn around and call another meeting next week, and next week, and next week, and that will, in perpetuity. So we're going to just keep doing this in theory.
yeah, I see what you mean. Mr. Alexander, I know that you're here from Aransas Court. Have you had this in when you were a member of the elections?
Judge, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay, never mind. I can't let you speak.
I am from Aransas County, but I'm a recent resident up here.
Oh, you are living here?
I lived here for the last 22 months
Oh, good.
and voted in the local elections.
Okay. Okay.
And while I'm up,
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to have to, we got to take care of something first, please. That's good. All right. I am compelled by law to go ahead and vote on this motion. And after this motion, then, I think if there's anything to proceed as Mr. Mills does, or as suggested, or advised us, because if we don't, we'll all be back here next week on another matter. So, does everybody understand the motion and the second? Okay, the motion is to terminate this meeting right now, made by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Ferguson. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, says nay. Nay. The nays have it.
So you don't
Okay.
need me anymore, right?
No.
I can go?
Do not leave, Mr. Mills, as they say. Please have a seat. Do not leave. Okay. All right. Since I have spoken what I think the people have said now I'm going to let the people here on the committee go ahead and speak what they want to say, and then we will call in line the people that have filled out a public participation form, and then we will vote again on the ultimate, and you get to speak also, Ms. Carew, okay? Okay, so who wants to speak first? You,
Really?
go.
I'll just say that this meeting is continued harassment by a group of activists here in Hood County, completely trumped up misinformation. Members of the public don't really know what's true and what's not. I actually work on every election. We haven't had any complaints. Secretary of State inspectors have been in our elections and not filed any complaints. David Fisher, the Republican chair, told me himself that he believes that our elections have gone smoothly. There's been no fraud or anything untoward since Michelle has started, correct? Correct?
You just get to speak.
Thank you. I thought, your turn.
Okay.
First of all, I want to make sure that we don't in any way undermine the integrity of our elections. I was highly involved in the November election, every part of it. We had some issues. We worked through the issues. They've been corrected. I want to say that the elections were free and fair in November. I was not really involved, except last night, in the city election, so I can't really speak to that. What I saw last night was fine. I didn't have any problems with it. What we're doing today is not about election integrity. What we're doing today is about the relationship between the elections administrator and the Republican Party, and the elections administrator and the Commissioner's Court, and the other members of the county. Something's been brought up to light in the last few weeks or few months, which disturbs me greatly, and that is that we have a government official, and we shouldn't have any government official. It's not specific to this one, but we should never have a government official that does not answer to the people. It disturbs me greatly that we might have an office here in Hood County, and in this case the elections administrator, who answers only to the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State, as a matter of fact, has resigned over, among other things, granting variances to laws, or at least the accusation of granting variances to laws, and which is beyond her authority. So I don't want to have any kind of an elected official inside our county that does not answer to the people, to the voters. For that reason, my preference would be to go to the Commissioner's Court and get rid of this position and put the election back into the county clerk, as Texas did for 150 years. But I don't have that authority, and this commission doesn't have that authority. The only authority we have is to hire, fire, or suspend the administrator. I will say that I disagree slightly with the interpretation that a couple of people have said. We can do more than hire and fire. We can discuss hiring and firing. Discussions, of course, we have to have before we can take a vote. And I'm prepared to take that vote, but I would like to hear from you first.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
So basically what you want is you want our free independent office moved into a Republican office for elections.
Silence, please. Please, everybody get their chance. If you spoke, you can
We
speak.
won't have an independent office, we will have a Republican office running our elections, correct? That's what you said you wanted.
I don't want any office in this county to be independent. I want them to answer to the people.
What office would the elections go to?
County clerk, well, part of it would go to the county clerk, part of it would go to the county.
Which is the partisan election office, correct?
Wait a minute. Part of it would go to the county clerk, the elections part, and part of it would go to the county tax assessor collector, the
Voter registration.
voter registration.
But our elections would be handled by a Republican partisan office, and we would no longer have an independent elections office.
If the people want a Democrat to run the elections office, all they have to do is elect a Democrat county clerk.
A partisan election office.
Judge, you need to control her.
Miss, you're out of order, Miss Brochure. You will have your chance to talk. You can't shout in the match, in this meeting. Okay. Who wants to speak next?
85% of this county is y'all. Settle down.
Go.
All I'd like to say is,
That's right.
Come on. Hey, let's,
all I'd like to say is, she really has not broken any laws. It is a personality conflict between people. Has anybody walked into her office to try to sit down, talk to her, ask her questions on certain subjects? Anybody besides me who has walked in her office and asked her, I'm speaking first, asked her questions? I have. I'm not afraid to go in there and ask her. Anybody else do it? It's a personality conflict. That's all it is. We got to get to know her, work with her, find your groove with her. She has not broken any laws. That's all I have to say.
okay, next. Ms. Lang?
Well, first, I'd like to say that I'm really for the people having free and ethical elections. This was brought up brought up to me to put on to call the meeting because the county judge refused to call the meeting. So it was on my duty as my job to call the meeting. I'm not real good at this, so apparently I did some things wrong. But what we do have, as the county attorney discussed, we are able to vote on the last agenda item. I am just wanting the Hood County voters to have a fair election, and that's all I want. I believe, we can get there if we discuss everything. Like, we will have the discussions with the people, whoever signed up. There has been opposition on both sides. It's gotten heated, so hopefully we can just, put it all out there and find out what's good, what's bad, and take a vote. So that's what I have to say.
Can you tell us how specifically how unfair?
No, ma'am. Ma'am, you're out of order. Okay. Now we've all spoken up here. Mrs. Carew, would you like to make a statement first, or would you like to go last after the...
I'd like to go last.
Okay. The first person that signed up to vote is Mr. Daniel Peters. Mr. Peters.
That's right, the socialist. I'm proud of it. I thank God every single day socialism is back in this country, because fascism is on the march in this country. And that's what this is. How many people have been driven from this county? How many? 4. 3 head librarians. 1 elections administrator before this one, Cricket Miller. Know their names, know her name.
Mr. Peters. Mr. Peters.
I'm sorry. My apologies, Judge.
Okay. Hey,
My apologies.
you need to speak into the microphone.
Yes, I do.
And you need to address the
court.
commission, please, and they can hear you. Okay.
Laugh it up. This town has a sickness, this county, and it's going to undermine its own elections, and it's going to run Republicans away. I don't even care. I don't vote Republican. I am proud of what I try and do in this county. I door knocked for Sanders in this county. I am an anti-fascist, maybe one of the only public anti-fascists in Hood County. Trump lost, people. Get over it. We've got three letters here. I can't believe what I heard from Jen Jarrett's letter. I was bowled over by that. And I don't know what else people are expecting. Actually, that's not true. I know exactly what people are expecting. People are expecting to run this one out. They're expecting to run yet another civil servant from Hood County. How many? I wonder it. I walk around and I laugh and I think to myself, how many is this so Christian county, this county of love, this county that cares about freedom, and it drives away its librarians? It's insane. And you drive away the people who administer your elections, and now you're on number 2. How many? You're going to wake up one day, those of you who aren't paying attention, and they are going to come for you. They are. This woman has voted in multiple Republican primaries. She ain't a socialist. Yeah. I don't know what else we can do, I mean, we can do lawsuits. We've already had one lawsuit from Katie Lang. This will be number 2. Last one cost, I think, $70,000.
No, sir.
No, it didn't? Okay.
Not supposed to reply, am I?
40,000? We'll see how much this one costs.
2,500.
Wake up, Hood County. Wake up. Good Lord, wake up while you still can. Because if elections aren't safe in Hood County, 85% Republican Hood County, where are they safe?
Number 2. Shirley Ledford. Shirley?
I'm glad to have a chance to talk today, but I didn't really want to. I was hoping that somebody would ask, how much power do you want when you're already getting 80% plus of the votes? How threatened are you, or can you be, by somebody that's independent, somebody that has a good reputation, somebody that is known statewide, good enough to be the head of the organization that she works with? And I don't understand. I'm like Daniel, it just boggles my mind, and I keep thinking, how much is enough? And it's sad to think that people have to have personality conflicts. My goodness, I was born in a family of 10, and we thought it was odd if somebody agreed with us. We didn't expect everybody to get along with us or to agree with us, but we still respected each other. We still loved each other and never turned our backs on each other. But you don't have to agree on every little thing to have a functioning relationship. And I'm just sorry to see us in this situation again. I don't understand it. And 82 years old, I need to be at home watching soap operas. But this is like a soap opera to me, let me tell you. It is a shame and a disgrace.
Thank you. Okay. Deborah Sagan.
I don't want to scream so loud into it that I hurt somebody's eardrums. So first of all, thank you for allowing me.
Can you speak into the mic?
Can you calm yourself, please? So anyway, I have only 3 comments to make. So my first comment has to do with the original election commission that was held in 2020. That commission was extremely polarized, and they couldn't come to a reasonable decision. The chair chose to ignore this discord and made a decision based on certifications. Okay, so that was how that was done. Subsequently, the chair continued to not act to resolve any of these issues, and basically, as issues arose, you mitigated them. You did, Judge. You mitigated the dispute, which is good. And finally, the election administrator, either she didn't understand, didn't care, didn't think it was part of her job. She didn't really understand the working environment that she was in. And she seemed to have had questionable judgment when it came to working relationships, which that's actually not a good thing. And I agree, we're not talking about any election fraud, waste, abuse, or anything like that. We're really talking about working relationships. And I think somebody, I don't know who that somebody is, but I'm looking to you all, because I think you're the somebodies, needs to mitigate that and resolve that for the rest of us who are the voters, and for people like me who are volunteers in the voting process. Because that's not our problem, to manage these other relationships that are working relationships. And that's what is a consternation for the voters. Not that we don't like Ms. McCrew, not that we, or Carew, excuse me, Michelle. Not that we don't like her, not that we don't understand her, not that we hate her. It's the citizens are not there to mitigate relationships. We just come in, we do our job, and we want a fair election, and we want to not be worried about, did we miss something in the election process? Did we make a mistake? Did we get somebody mad? Okay, so I think that's basically the whole issue. I think that was very much correct. It is a relationship, it's a work relationship problem. And I'm coming to you guys to say, can you fix it for us, the voters? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trudy Hancock.
My name is Trudy Hancock. I'm here today as a representative of Texas Association of Elections Administrators. I am the current treasurer of that group, TAEA, on which Michelle holds the position as the president currently. Michelle started on the board as the secretary, as we all do, and she has gone up through the ranks as secretary, treasurer, vice president, and its current president. During her tenure as serving on the board, she has been well respected by her peers. And as you may or may not know, that is, you start on the board being voted in by your peers, which says to me something about a person who can hold a position on that board, that the peers across the state of Texas hold her in high regard. And just, it's hard for me too, because I'm also her friend, so, but just here as a board officer today, I would just like to let you know that we feel honored that someone of her caliber would be here in Hood County or serve as an election administrator anywhere across the state of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Bergman.
Okay. All right, guys, I've been around a while, and I started way back with a title company, and somebody stuck their head in the door and said, hey, they need some help electing, counting votes. And I said, oh, I've been in the Air Force for the last 20 years, and we only voted absentee every 4 years, because we didn't feel we had the right to impose on another people's property. Okay, so I started there, and then I went, and God knows, it was at Membrino, and we got to know all the Membrino people, and then we went to, then I became a judge when we got a Republican, governor, and I thought, oh my gosh, but we got along just fine with all the people in Hood County. And later on, when we had a Republican county clerk, we continued. We went through, we got automatic machines. We went from paper ballots to, screens. You guys have spent $750,000 on this new system, and I'm telling you, it's worth it. I worked just last week on the runoff, and it was the first time I'd even looked at them all summer. And they're a piece of cake. They're wonderful. But guess who got them? Guess who made that decision? You guys are really crazy if you're trying to take it back to the county clerk's office, because you need a specialist in this order of this computer age. And I'm the dumbest computer. I got a Cricket phone because I hate electronics, except that, you can't get away without them. And I'm telling you, if you mess this thing up, you're going to be so sorry. That's all I got to say.
Gene McNeely.
Okay.
I have a hard time trying to add to what's already been said, but I started working the elections 13 years ago. I'm a retired banker, and I have a small farm in Lipan, and it was just kind of on a whim that I wanted to start working on the elections. I got a chance to meet a lot of great people in the county. I was brand new. We have a lot of friends that are sitting around here that are Republicans and are Democrats. And I'm telling you right now, we've set, when this last election, or the one in November, happened, I was scared because we had lost Cricket Miller, and it was right before the election. And we got somebody new in, Michelle, and I didn't know her from Adam. She took control. We had a great election. I thoroughly enjoyed working with her. She's not the easiest person to get to know, and I think that's a whole lot of this. But once you get to know her, she's fabulous. This new system we have, as Pat Bergman said, it's wonderful. We love it. The workers love it. The majority of the voters love it. And I think we need to really think about what you're doing before you release her. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Chappelle.
Hi. When I walked in the door, I got a piece of paper, and it said, which item do you want to talk about? And I chose number 6 because that was what was in the newspaper, the cooperation. So my replies are probably not what everybody else is thinking. I just wanted to know, how many requests for information did the county clerk make? Were these requests related to her ability to perform her position as a county clerk? In other words, did she have a need to know? And was the information legally releasable? Were the copies of the requests provided to the election committee here or to the Texas Election Committee? So if she wants to answer those questions, that's fine.
Well, you go ahead, and Michelle, I can address it also. You remember to do that. You want to address her?
I didn't know if we were allowed to. I didn't think we were allowed to comment on your discussions. That's usually the way it works.
That's the way it really works. I just didn't want to be the one to say it. I've already said too much. All right. Thank you very much. I know no one here knows her, but I've recognized this lady before. Sharon Sheelander, are you here?
Hold on a second. Where is it there? I got it. Everybody thinks I'm an invalid.
Well, you've got new wheels since I've last seen you.
I do. Two wasn't enough. So, well, you know, Judge, I've been to Commissioner's Court several times, and I've provided some information from time to time to you, because you are on this committee, and I was hoping you would take it to the committee for them to look at. One of them being about a page and a half of a list of things that people that were in the counting room, in the signature room area, and that had provided to me that were rules by the Secretary of State that were not followed properly. We've had this conversation before, and I say every time, I'm not accusing Michelle of fraud. I don't think she fraudulently did anything. I think it was an administrator issue, that she was not following the rules and the proper, following the documentation, the envelopes, everything through the process the way it should have been. So that's one of my concerns. The second thing was, I gave you a paper, and I know a lot of people think that this is not necessary, but it is. It had a summary at the bottom of it, and in that I found 6 of our precincts had an extra vote that they didn't have a voter. Now that doesn't sound like much, but there's local elections here that have been won with very few votes, and so there could be an issue going forward, and I never got a response back from Michelle, although I did ask her in Commissioner's Court, so I did communicate with her about this issue, and all I get back is that it was ES&S. Well, I still have just an issue with that. I'm thinking, why would 6 precincts have 1 extra vote in it if they were provisional votes? which I know most time when you're voting, if you're an election judge, there's always more provisionals than just one. So that was my concern, and I was hoping that this committee would take those up and address them. The next thing I have is, again, on relationships. I've not talked with Michelle very often. When I was in training, I did have an issue. I thought she was kind of abrupt from time to time and not as informational and communicational as she should have been. I guess that's pretty much it. I just think that we need to have somebody, how would I want to put this? I just don't think we need to have an extra person doing our elections. I definitely think it should go back to the county clerk and to the tax assessor to be able to perform that. A lot of our major cities don't even have an election administrator. So I think that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Nathan Criswell.
Good afternoon, Judge, Election Commission. Appreciate y'all calling this meeting. The most important thing I think we need to consider when discussing this position is, what does the law say? Not what does the Secretary of State's office say, or what does an unelected bureaucrat say, or what does a member of this commission say. What does the law say in black and white? And a lot of this, I would argue, has very little to do with personal relationships. It has to do with 52.062 numbering of ballots. It is in black and white by one. I don't care what kind of stuff the Secretary of State puts out. That is what it says. 31.044. Showing up to Commissioner's Court when required and cooperating with the county clerk as required. That is in black and white. Obscure opinions by unelected bureaucrats should hold no bearing as to how you make your decisions. It is explicitly clear under those statutes. Now, who holds the election administrator accountable? We've had a county commissioner say that she's held accountable by the documents. You know, we've had people say that kind of nobody does. A member of your committee here has said that you don't hold her accountable. That to me is absurd. Any government employee, any elected official, appointed official should be held accountable to the people. It's not a difficult concept. That is the foundation of our country. You are all elected officials, and consequently, you are all held accountable. You know, every one of you has an election to go through, and I hope that y'all will do your job and hold the election administrator accountable. Now, to the point of moving it to the county clerk and tax assessor's office, however we need to do it, the only thing that matters is that we follow the law. We follow the law, not unelected bureaucrats. Thank you.
Ralph Gomez.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I came here to Texas, and obviously, I'm a Democrat. But I'm not a liberal Democrat, as people may think all Democrats are. However, I had a background in labor law from the time that I was hired, investigations, elections. So when I was appointed a judge, I wanted that because I had the background in elections. It's not easy to set up elections. In the circumstances that we had, and I'll call it as it is, in my personal opinion, Cricket Miller was run off. She was doing a good job, but what bothers me the most is the fact that when certain groups don't get what they want, they create a stink. And then that gets motion. And then we find ourselves here. First of all, if there's bosses, do your job. We do not have to come before this court to hear the garbage or whatever complaints or whatever. You have the authority to speak to her, address your issues, and you may or may not have, okay? I've attended commissioners' meetings here, and I sure as hell would not sit here and be belittled and questioned up and down over some stuff that is nonsense that she cannot go and sit in her office and speak to her directly. When she came in a situation where this county was in trouble. Had you not found an experienced election administrator, we would have been lost. We would have been still running elections today. For reason is, it takes expertise to develop the systems as well as ensuring that all facets of election are in order and all laws are abided by. As a judge, I've come across situations where people get pissed off at me. I've been reported, and that's great. You know why? Because I'm doing my job. That's the privilege that I have as a judge, is that I can make a decision. I carry the Secretary of State's number as well as Michelle or the elections office number. You have a problem, talk to them. Because we've received the training and we make every attempt to give everybody a fair election. When people claim that it's been not fair, come on. Who has complained about the election process? I think what's happened in this county, a lot of people have not appreciated what this woman did to step in to save our butts, because that's what happened. And I give her kudos for what she did. Yes, she was stern, no question about it. But in that situation, I would have been acting in the same manner to ensure that everything was in place. And thank you, Ms. Carew.
Jim Logan.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the chance to speak today. One of the things I just want to kind of highlight a couple of things before I finish up here. As your socialist like to point out, 81% of this county did vote for President Trump in this last election, which implies that 81% of the voting population in this county is Republican. That means that they have a high concern over election integrity going forward. And so I would disagree with my colleague, Mr. Fisher, up here on integrity. Integrity implies the system as a whole, which does imply the people that are participating in this. The concerns, and one of the things that wasn't highlighted in your introduction of things into the record, was that the Republican Party of Hood County has requested you to deal with this situation because your election administrator is hostile to the Republican Party. So if that is the case going forward, there is no election integrity because she hasn't done her due diligence to make sure she has a good working relationship with the Republican Party. Most of the ones on this commission are Republican elected officials. That means that election integrity is of a concern to you as well, because it's a concern to the voters as well. So while the Democrats may get up here and make a good play for it, if she can't get along with 81% of this county, that's a problem. So I would ask you to follow up with what the Hood County Republican Party has asked you to do and correct this situation to provide election integrity before we get into the 2022 Republican primary. Thank you very much.
Dave Eagle.
Thank you, Judge, Commission. I just want to get this on the record about the statute. This is a properly called meeting under the Texas Election Code under 31033. The judge, as the chair of the commission, was asked to call a meeting because the authority considered the meeting necessary and desirable. The judge refused to call it. So it triggered the vice chair to call the meeting, and we're here today. So what can be done at this meeting? I urge people to read this statute. How about that? Texas Election Code 31037 says suspension or termination of employment. The employment of a county elections administrator may be suspended with pay, suspended without pay, or terminated at any time for good and sufficient cause on a 4/5 vote of the commission. So what can you do here? You can vote to suspend her with pay, vote to suspend her without pay based on the laundry list of stuff up there, vote to terminate her, or not do anything. Go home. Those are your 4 options. I'm going to point out for the record a Texas Attorney General opinion that was written by Greg Abbott, who's our current governor. It's GA 0361, GA 0361, and it was issued September 30th of 2005. It says, a county election commission does not have rulemaking or quasi-judicial power. Its sole authority is to select a county elections administrator and to then supervise. I'm going to repeat that. Supervise the administrator to some degree, so that if there is good and sufficient cause, the commission may recommend to the Commissioner's Court that the current county elections administrator may be terminated. And of course, the suspension with or without pay was added in 2011, so this was before that. So that got added to the statute. The point I'm trying to make is there is some supervisory authority here, and how do you figure out how to terminate, suspend with or without pay anybody without listening to what's going on? I mean, do you do it in a vacuum? Because it sounds to me like nobody seems to think that anybody's got any authority over the elections administrator. So that's my point, is that, hey, who's the authority to supervise, and who is this person accountable to? I've been told it's not me, it's not the Commissioner's Court, it's not y'all, it's the Secretary of State, and I don't see that anywhere in the Texas Election Code, Section 31. So I'm just trying to get the record clear that y'all are having a legal meeting here. Thank you.
Harold Granick.
Thank you, Election Commission, for allowing me to talk. I'll point out that involved in the elections, I've been an election judge. I'm probably the only person who's been a precinct chair of Chair 8, both for the Republican and Democratic parties. I've been a deputy election registrar. People have mentioned, and Commissioner Eagle, about following the law and such. Someone has to judge and interpret that law, and I'll get to that in a moment. But the essence here is the election's been run brilliantly by Michelle Carew. She's doing her job. We have a suggestion that we should revert back to the county clerk's office. The county clerk has just admitted that even calling this meeting, she did not do it properly or legally. Several years ago, she violated the dictums of the Supreme Court of the United States. If someone should resign, she should have resigned then. Commissioner Eagle has many times in the Commissioner's Court brought up these things about the law. He likes to only quote selective amounts of the law. When he played his video of when the counsel for the Secretary of State gave her presentation to Commissioner's Court, he played only a 30-second interval, ignoring the rather extensive point where she had said that Michelle Carew was doing the proper job. If my commissioner, Commissioner Eagle, does not like the opinions of the counselor for the Secretary of State, he should resign commissioner and apply for that job. If he does not like what the Supreme Court justice rules, he should resign as commissioner, run for that job. If he does not like what the Attorney General dictates, he should resign his position and run for that job. He does not decide what the law is, and the code for the law is very extensive. Michelle Carew is following the law, the total law, and that's what counts. And handing it to a less skilled position where she has such skills and done such a good job and is so well respected would be ridiculous. Thank you for allowing me to talk.
Ernest Alexander.
That's a hard act to follow. 3 minutes. All I've got is the newspaper that I read this morning. And I'm a recent resident, and I know nobody in this room, other than my commissioner, Jack, in precinct 3, because I voted for him. I met him in the parking lot, and anybody else I don't know. I have moved here from Aransas County, and 100 years ago I was elected, I don't know why, to the Republican chairman's job. And from there I learned a lot about the way politics in a small town works. And it's not very pretty sometimes, but I worked very closely with the county clerk, Peggy Freebill, anybody who happens to remember that name, and we got along pretty good, but without her, I couldn't have done the job as the chairman of the party that I did. I came up here, and I'm reading the paper, the only paper, like down there we've got the Rockport Pilot. It comes out twice a week, and up here we got HCN. I look at this thing this morning and said, my God, this gal's got letters of accolade letters, and she seems to be doing well. She came from Aransas County. Being a retired cop, I called Aransas County. Hey, what's going on? This gal came up, and everybody says she's really good. Now they're trying to can her. Why? I finally wound up talking to the judge down there, who's been a judge 2 or 3 times elected as the county judge, a guy by the name of Bert Mills. And I talked to him this morning, and Bert says, you can use my name. I said, what's the deal with her? He says, I wish we'd have never lost her. He said, she was that good. She kept us out of a lot of trouble doing the job that she did. She moved to be with her family. And we tried to offer her more money to get her to stay, but she couldn't for family reasons. And the ex-cop thing came in when I thought, this sounds like a head-to-head political thing that could probably be solved over a cold draft beer. Thank you.
Pam Anderson.
Good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm speaking really as just a reference for Michelle. I have known her probably longer than anyone in this room has. She was very close to our family at one time, and so I've known her about 10, 12 years. So we spent a lot of time together during several elections, several big elections. Never once did Michelle give me any inclination of how she thought, how she voted, what party she adhered to or looked to. She was always completely professional and completely nonpartisan. And for that reason, I just so support her, and that's what we need in Hood County. Thank you.
Nanette Samuelson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just want to say that I have had several personal interactions with Michelle, and she's always been very pleasant to me personally. I was deputy voter registrar, and I worked at early voting during the 2020 election. What does concern me at the end of the day is this is about following the law. There's no personalities involved. You just need to follow the law. We've heard before, the law is the law is the law. So the election code that's referenced that has to do with the interaction between the county clerk and the appointed election administrator, there was, via open records request, there was some communication between Katie Lang and Michelle Carew last October. This did concern me. According to, this is Katie, email to Michelle. According to the election code, you have violated Section 31.044, division of certain duties between the county clerk and the election administrator. Section 31044 states, the county election administrator shall cooperate with the county clerk in applying information, on supplying information on election matters that are to be brought before the court. I had no notice of communication with you for matters pertaining to Commissioner's Court on Tuesday, October 13th. Then Michelle replied, "Good morning, Katie. I appreciate you reaching out to me. After consulting with the legal division of the Texas Secretary of State, this provision ensures that the election administrator provide the agenda items to the county clerk because the clerk is responsible for preparing the agenda. In Hood County, that's the judge's assistant's responsibility. That is why I sent the items directly to her." So then on reply from Katie, sorry. It says, Michelle, no ma'am, the law does not state EA provide the agenda items to the county clerk only for, okay, I'm going to skip because I'm running out of time. So there was another exchange, and in the end, Michelle says, I will not, with a capital N-O-T, Miss Lang, I will not, with a capital N-O-T, be providing that information to you. I will follow the guidance of the Secretary of State's office. So as we have stated earlier, the Secretary of State does not make the law. The law is by the legislature. So I just want whoever the election administrator is to follow the law. I don't care if it's Michelle or Jack and the Beanstalk. They just need to follow the law.
That concludes the public participation forms. Now, Michelle, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Thank you, Judge and members. I just want to say that I do appreciate everyone who did come to speak today, whether it be on my behalf or against me. I'm a very open person. I believe that in the emails that I've sent to anyone, I let everybody know that I have an open door policy. I can tell you that not one person who's had a problem with me has come to speak to me. Of the issues that we had in the November election, I had one phone call, and that was it. Nobody ever came to speak to me about anything. I didn't even know about these issues until it was brought up in court that there was an issue. Other than that, I want to thank you guys for coming here and bringing this to my attention. I am easy to get along with. I can get the job done. I want the voters of Hood County to know that as long as I'm the elections administrator, that elections will be held according to the Texas Election Code, not according to a small group of people who want to tell me what to do. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Now, at this juncture, is Mr. Mills still here, or did he sneak out? He did sneak out. The chair will now entertain a motion from the committee.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Fisher.
I want to say several times people have said that we ran cricket off. That's the furthest thing from the truth. I was working the elections at the time, and I begged her to stay. She was great. I would prefer, if I could, to make a motion to dissolve the EA position, but I'm not allowed to do that. All I can do, perhaps, is recommend it to the Commissioner's Court. So I'll make the only motion I'm allowed to make, and that is to terminate.
Is there a second to Mr. Fisher's motion to terminate Michelle Carew as elections administrator?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion made by Chairman of the Republican Committee to terminate Michelle Carew, second by Katie Lang, the county clerk. All those in favor of terminating Michelle Carew, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Nay. The nays have it, 3-2.
I'm sorry, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
So, sorry, I have it here. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that the Election Commission to suspend for 2 weeks without pay Michelle Carew, the Hood County Elections Administrator.
A motion has been made by County Clerk Katie Lang that Michelle Carew be suspended without pay for 2 weeks. Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second. Anything else? If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Thank y'all.